Welcome back to the Full Spectrum Show. Today we are looking at supersonic commercial flight. Got this very nice article from Ars Technica by Eric Berger. We're just going to read a little bit from it. The U.S. military has indicated its interest in commercial supersonic flight by granting as much as $60 million to Boom Supersonic for its airliner development efforts. The Colorado-based company has announced that the Air Force awarded a 3-year contract to Boom to accelerate research and development of its Overture airliner. Separately this week, Boom selected Piedmont Triad International Airport in Greensboro, North Carolina as the site of its first-scale manufacturing. That was a little dyslexic. Its first full-scale manufacturing facility. There, Boom plans to begin production in 2024, with the first Overture aircraft slated to roll out in 2025, fly in 2026, and carry its first passengers by 2025. So that's pretty reasonable, I'd say, for a timetable. It looks like they want to carry between 65 and 88 passengers at subsonic speed over land and supersonic speeds over water, which is more than twice as fast as current commercial aircraft. So that would cut quite a bit of time off of these travels across the ocean. And, that's happening more and more in modern eras. So it makes sense that you would want to do that faster. But we have had attempts at doing this in the past, such as the Concorde. And the Concorde, in my mind, is an extremely beautiful plane. It actually has a nose that dives down so that way the pilot has an easier time seeing the runway as he comes in for landing. But it had a rocky past, and it was very, very noisy, extremely noisy, in fact. And, that was a huge complaint, too, was just how loud supersonic booms are while it's flying, and going at supersonic speeds. And unfortunately, on a takeoff on July 25th in 2000, a Concorde en route from Paris to New York City suffered engine failure shortly after takeoff when debris from a burst tire caused the fuel tank to rupture and burst into flames. Unfortunately, this caused the aircraft to fall out of the sky shortly after and hit a small hotel, and unfortunately, all souls on board the aircraft were lost, including 4 on the ground. So, huge, massive tragedy. And, it's hard to avoid things like that when, it's just, in general, it's really, when something flies into your engine, it's hard to stop that, And there's a lot of things on airports to prevent, like birds, for example, from being able to even be around airports. But when it's your own tire bursting, it's just not a lot you can do about that. And if you can see just by the layout of the engines, it is very sleek and far back. So a burst rubber or a burst tire could definitely get in there. As with a lot of modern other aircraft, it's definitely still plausible. And a lot of other aircraft have, gone down because of engine issues as well. So it's not like this is something new. Aircraft travel is dangerous. So is getting your car, You can't avoid these things with modern travel, and it's no way to live life to avoid them by any means. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to, fly across the ocean in a matter of a day, or less with something like this. But the question in my mind is, will technology like these new aircraft that surprisingly the military is investing in, I guess maybe not too surprisingly, I could see where there'd be advantages to being able to get troops and cargo overseas at exponential speeds than what we can do now. So that does make sense to me to some degree, that you would want to see something like this being made for military use. But I do worry. I mean, at least this concept art, it's very, very similar to a Concorde. I mean, I hope they have new ways to prevent anything from getting in those engines. Maybe some safeguards and different technologies that we'd be able to actually implement. But beyond that, why not use technology like the X-59 Quest is working on? Now, obviously, this is NASA and DARPA, so this is going to take a while to get to the public. But the fact they're already showing build timelines and stuff is really interesting and really cool, all the way from 2019 to 2021. The work is slow, but I mean, they have the whole concept in place, and it looks really interesting. And as the plane flies over, I'm not sure what the PLDB stands for, but maybe it's the positioning and the location, because obviously if you're cruising at 55,000 feet, that's the sound that is going to be next to the aircraft is going to be quite a bit different than the sound on the ground. But if you're on the ground listening to a supersonic craft, usually it's pretty loud, regardless. But if you're flying with something like this that's reducing the noise, 75 decibels is still fairly loud. I mean, a car door closing, it's not quiet, but it's definitely not something you'd probably hear from inside your house. It definitely wouldn't break your windows if it's flying low enough and breaking the speed of sound. Well, it might. I don't know. That's a good question. At 55,000 feet, if it's flying low enough, probably still would, I'd imagine, if you're breaking the sound barrier. But really interesting. Do you think it's worthwhile to be investing in so many different places? But then again, this is kind of what the military does. They never put their eggs in one basket. They seem to invest in a very large field of different technologies and up-and-coming technologies. And is this even worthwhile in the long run? Or do you think in the future we're just going to be using hypersonic missiles and delivery systems such as that, to deliver cargo and maybe even troops one day? We could see something like Halo ODST guys, but instead of dropping from, orbit, you get launched and then you fall back into orbit, and, you could be in position in a matter of hours anywhere on the world instead of, the times that we're talking about having to fly, just even doubling the flight across, or not doubling, halving the time that it takes to fly a regular airline with a supersonic airline. It's still a decently long flight. So I don't know. As we're coming into the hypersonic era, is supersonic still even a thing? Should we be focusing here? Or do you think that as we move into the hypersonic era, we're going to leave subsonic mostly behind? But then again, like we're talking with noise, I don't know if there's any technology that can break those physics of coming in and actually flying over land without causing that much disruption. I guess time will tell with all these new technologies coming out and all these new investments. Anyways, I'll definitely be looking into this as it grows in the future. It's very interesting to me, and I hope you guys think it was too. Thanks for coming and joining the Full Spectrum Show.